Hello again, back with more Frostheart today, and we've read the first 3 chapters so far, so we are ready for chapter 4, which is called Keepsakes. Later that night, much later, Ash slumped into his hammock, exhausted. He'd finally managed to hit the stupid target, and pain cramped his callous fingers. High up in the rafters, Tobu lay silent and still in his hammock, but despite how tired he was, Ash could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw slithering serpentine bodies, glistening fangs and frantic rending claws. Tears burned their way down his cold cheeks. The lurker attack had been terrifying, and he wished more than anything that someone would just hold him and tell him it would all be all right. He thought of Tobu and laughed bitterly under his breath. Not likely. It was at times like that Ash missed his parents the most. He might have never known them, but he felt sure that they must have loved him and would know how to comfort him now. "Where are you?" he called out in his head. "Mum? Dad? I need you." Rubbing at his eyes, Ash got up, dressed, and slipped out onto the watchtower roof, the chill air biting into his furs. The village lay ahead, so close and yet a world away. Ash had always felt disconnected from the other Fearer, but he now felt further away than ever. He could see lantern lights shimmering behind the high walls, shining like stars amid the night sky, the only light within uncountable leagues. It looked comforting, Ash thought, beautiful even, if a little lonely. Or was that just how he felt? The clustered dwellings were too numerous to count. And yet, no matter how big the village seemed, when you were forced to remain behind its walls, it began to feel very small indeed. It began to feel a lot like a prison. It might have been cold, but Ash rather liked it up here on the roof. It was peaceful, and it was the only place he could go to secretly. He could go to secretly listen to the mysterious songs that were carried to him upon the icy breeze. And he was in luck, for tonight the Leviathans were singing in chorus. Unlike the rest of the Fearer, Ash found the sound soothing. He couldn't hear what they were saying, maybe they weren't saying anything, but the song itself was calm and mournful, the deep howls and eerie keening a world away from the rabid war cry they'd screamed that morning. As snow whipped through his messy black hair, Ash dug inside his furs and pulled out an ocarina. It was the one gift his parents had given him before they disappeared, and he treasured it. He raised the ocarina to his lips. No one would hear him play up here, not if he played quietly. Besides, Tobu said no singing. He said nothing about playing instruments. Ash began to join the Leviathan's melancholy melody. He allowed the Leviathan song to envelop him, and for a moment, which seemed to last an age, it took him to another place. Somewhere away from Tobu, away from his loneliness, away from his problems. A place where he felt safe, a place that felt like home. And despite what Ash had been through earlier that day, he felt the familiar craving to answer it with a song of his own. Ash pulled the ocarina away and shook his head to clear it, to try break himself from the song's spell. I have to stop doing this. I have to. It's dangerous. Tobu made that clear enough. He settled for murmuring his parents' lullaby under his breath. This is not farewell. This is not goodbye. Our love for you will never die. Over the horizon to mother sun's light, we'll be waiting to hold you tight. Walls can be broken and left behind. Follow the paths and you will find. He could only remember a handful of the words, but he was positive the melody would be something he remembered forever. Ash's heart swelled every time he heard it, the loving message wrapping him in a blanket of calm, protecting him from all the terrible things that had shaken his world. It felt like there was a kind of magic to the words, a magic that filled him with hope, and sometimes when he sang, he thought he could see vague, blurred visions of faces. And if he tried hard enough, he could sharpen the edges, like the memories could be touched and lived in. Warm, cosy firelight, 2 smiling, happy faces, looking down at him with nothing but joy. They were his parents, he was sure, but just as it seemed like they were crystallising into focus, they would blur again, lost to the blizzard of time, and Ash would be alone again. Sometimes he even dared to believe the lullaby was a message left by his parents, some kind of hidden secret telling him where they had gone and why. He had obsessed over the lyrics, he remembered, going round and round in circles, trying to find their meaning. Walls can be broken and left behind. Follow the paths and you will find. It wasn't hard to think it was telling him to leave the walls of the Fear of Stronghold and perhaps head east towards Mother Sun's light. She did awaken in the east after all, but of course that was impossible. East, west, south or north, no one got far beyond the walls, not even the hunters. There had to be more to it, something he was missing. But deep down, he knew it was all nonsense. It was a fantasy born of his loneliness. After all, it was only a lullaby. Suddenly, a shadow fell upon him. Ash whipped around and with a gasp saw Tobu standing behind him. The images of his parents' faces still burned in his mind's eye, but they were disappearing like ghosts in the sun. "I told you not to sing," Tobu said. I'm sorry. It's just a lullaby my parents used to sing to me. It's all I have left." Ash's voice broke as he slipped the ocarina back into his furs. Was it his imagination, or did Tobu's expression soften just a little? "It is for your own safety that I tell you not to sing." "I know," Ash replied. Tobu grunted. "Especially this lullaby, and you would be wise to think carefully who you share it with. The world weave tells me that much. Now, come in, to bed." Ash scrunched his eyes shut, trying one last time to reconjure the face of his parents, but it was no use. They were gone. The Leviathan song seemed to echo his sadness as he followed Toby back into the watchtower, where he finally fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning, Ash decided to see if he could wheedle any more information out of his Yeti guardian. It was clear he knew something about singing, and perhaps he could tell Ash more about this mysterious world weave. Toby seemed to be in a relatively good mood. During the few free moments Toby had to himself, when he wasn't busy with chores, hunting, or meditating, he had taken to sculpting. Quite what he was sculpting, Ash had still not figured out. They looked like little wooden blobs, maybe? It must be a Yeti thing, Ash thought to himself. Whatever it was, Toby's heavy brows were slightly less knitted, and Ash took this to mean he was happy. Happy-ish? It was hard to tell. So, feeling bold, Ash looked up to the spear Toby had made him sharpen, took a breath and asked, "What is a song weaver?" Toby looked up from the small chunk of wood he had been whittling. He'd already set aside 3 previous blobs, apparently unsatisfied with their blobbiness. "It is a human kin matter," he said after some time. "Please, Tobu," said Ash, sitting up. "I know you know something, and I have to know. I have to know what people think I am, and why." Tobu let out a heavy sigh. Just as Ash began to think he'd get nothing out of his guardian, Toby began to speak. He spoke slowly, as if he was choosing his words very carefully. "Song weavers are those who can sing the song of the Leviathans. It is no more verse or chant they sing, but the very song of nature, the world weave. Song weavers are said to have the ability to speak with Leviathans, if their skills are honed enough." Ash felt a chill run down his spine, all the way to the tips of his fingers and toes. He felt a connection to the Leviathans when they sang. He had a near uncontrollable urge to sing along with them, but he wasn't a song weaver, was he? "Why is that so bad?" Ash asked, trying to still the trembling of his hands. "Why are the Fearers so afraid of me, if that's what they think I am? Surely being able to speak to the Leviathans would be a good thing. We could ask them to leave us alone." A shadow lies upon the history of the song weavers. What goes one way goes the other. The world weaves nothing if not balance. Song weavers speak to Leviathans, so Leviathans can speak back to them. And given past events, most human kin fear that Leviathans can bend a human mind to their will and use them as tools against the strongholds. This fear results in song weavers being shunned to the strongholds and shapes fear law, so that it bans all music, just to be safe. Ash shook his head in disbelief. His hands were properly shaking now. "I'm not a song weaver. I can't be." What could a song weaver do to stop it? The mind control, I mean," Ash asked, trying his best to contain the cracking of his voice. "I do not know," Toby said. He seemed about to leave it there, but he saw the fear in Ash's eyes. "The best thing a song weaver could do is to keep quiet, and to not sing, as I have told you." Ash felt like he'd been thrown from a great height, his belly left at the top. That was it then. He would have to stop singing, even the lullaby, which made his heart hurt. But maybe then nothing would happen to him. Maybe any tiny bit of song weaver that might have been in him would dwindle and disappear, and he would be normal again. "Do you think I'm evil?" Ash blurted out. "If I'm a song weaver, do you think that makes me evil?" "I don't know much about that," Toby said, which wasn't exactly reassuring. Ash was quiet for a moment. "I don't feel evil. I try to be nice," he said eventually. "The world exploits weakness," muttered Toby in reply, his face an expressionless mask as he cut into another wooden blob with his dagger. "I don't think being nice is weakness," Ash retorted. "Maybe song weaving could be used for good. if people were just more open-minded. It could save people. It could clear the way for Pathfinder slaves. It could help deliver food and medicine to all the strongholds of the world. It could... Enough! Toby cut right through the wood, his carving ruined, or had it been made much better? It was hard to tell. A fire burned in his eyes. Ash braced himself for an explosion of Yeti fury, but instead Toby took a deep breath and reached for a new chunk of wood. Ash let out a quiet sigh of relief. Do not get your hopes up, boy. People can't see past what scares them. You don't seem to be scared of me, Ash ventured. There are many things I do not understand in this world. It does not mean I should fear them. Ash thought on this. I have also seen your hunting skills. I do not see any reason to fear you based on that. Ash rolled his eyes. What an awful, awful last few days. At least it's the festival tomorrow. At least there's that to take my mind off all this. Ash looked forward to the Festival of 1,000 Fires every winter. It was a great celebration in honour of Mother Sun, and the whole stronghold dressed in cool costumes that represented the fire spirits to help scare away the ice crone. Excuse me. Then, almost as if he was reading Ash's mind again, Toby said, I think it would be best for you to not set foot in the village for a time. What? But why? We must be confident you can control your urges. The villagers are scared. I am worried that what they might do to us if you lose control again. If you tried to sing... Toby looked up from his sculpture, noticing the disappointment in Ash's face. Do not worry, he said, his expression the closest to sympathetic Ash had ever seen. I shall continue your training here. You will not miss out on any fun. Sorry, I've just got the hiccups. And that is the end of chapter 4. Good timing. I hope you enjoyed it.